Hey guys, welcome back to a new video in this channel. Today we're going to continue with our project that we started yesterday, which is this very nice lighthouse element. Now, we were not expecting the response that we got. It seems like a lot of you guys are really looking forward to the whole series, but not only look forward to it, try to do it yourself. That's the main goal that we have with this sort of videos, that you also learn from them. So today we're going to start working on, well, the general details. Like I want to start like adding a little bit more, let's call it, what would be the proper word? Volume to the whole thing, right? Because right now these are just like super basic shapes that we have here inside of Maya, and it would be nice if we could start blocking in a couple of more important pieces. So let's start, for instance, with the door, and the door is going to be really easy. It's just a matter of finding like the proper height here, and the best way to do it is, of course, with our shot cam. So I'm going to say panels, look through selected, and then I'm going to use my cut tool here on, oh, let's go object mode, there we go, and I'm going to use cut tool, and we're gonna cut right about there. Perfect. Now that's the main one that I need, because now here I'm just gonna go to the middle, and then to the middle, and to the middle, and I think that's gonna be a nice size for our door. So here I'm gonna extrude, and we're gonna extrude this in. Now again, this is just the blocking. We're gonna be like modifying the geometry and everything later on. I just want to have like a general idea of where things are, because well, of course we need to do that. So now I'm going to do the same trick that we did yesterday. So I'm going to go shotcams, panels, look through selected panels, tier off copy. So we have this copy over here. And that way I'm going to be able to modify things here and see where things fall over here. So as you can see, we have this paneling right here. There's like a wooden support. And I want to find where that line is, which I can see it's roughly about there. Cool. And then we have another one right about there, which is another like wood beam that we have. And then, of course, the rest of the elements. So the reason why I want to do this is because now I could start thinking about like how to do these parts right here, like the paneling and stuff. So I know that eventually we're going to have a little bit of paneling right about here and about here. So I could grab all of these faces and just extrude them out. Now, as you can see, when I extrude this thing with this element right here, we're going to get certain curvature there. If you don't want that, you can just use thickness right here. And that's going to extrude things a little bit more like straight without distorting them or creating more volume. So that's gonna look a little bit better. Same deal for this one right here. So I'm going to add a new line, like right about there. Grab this thing, Control E, and then just push with thickness out a little bit to create this sort of effect. Eventually, we're going to be able to extract those faces and work with those faces if we need to, but if not, it's just a matter of, or it's just a way for me to find where most of the important things are going to be. For instance, here for the lighthouse, let's go to the base here, right about there, and then it's about there. As you can see, here's where you need to use your logic, right? Like I see this beam right here on the house, and then this one right here is slightly above it, so I'm going to go slightly above it as well. Probably a little bit more, like about there. And there we go. And we also take a look at the thickness. So now that's thick, so probably about there. And then the next one, you can see it's right where the roof meets the whole thing. This element right there. This is where the next one's gonna be. So about there. And then the next one, I don't have any point of reference. I'm gonna have to kind of like eyeball it, which should be about there. And then there's one almost immediately above it, like about there, and then we have our little thing right there. So that gives me this little guys right here, which are gonna be my some sort of like supports, right? So grab this whole thing, Control E, and we extrude this out. There we go, to get the nice effect. Now here's where the concept gets a little bit like weird, because remember when we were talking about the house, and this section seems to be like aligned to this like middle section of the like element. I can see the little corner there almost touching, but then like we tried doing that over here, and just like things don't match, right? The only way this would match is if we were to take this thing right here and like move it to the side, meaning that on this side everything is like perfectly straight, and then this thing is like slightly skewed towards the other side. I'm not sure if I want to do that, to be honest. I might consider just like making this thing a little bit thinner and just like going over here, which doesn't seem to be that much like that bad, right? So it's a little bit weird, but it's not as bad. Maybe what we can do here is push this thing like further out, like not everything, but maybe, well, maybe yeah, everything Let's try this, guys, to try and match the concept a little closely. So there we go. It's just a little bit. So as you saw there, it's just a small bit of push there. And of course, the roof would need to be pushed as well. And this is why this part, this like blocking stage, is so important, because we need to try to find a way to create this sort of thing in the best possible way. Now, one thing that's going to be happening very, very soon, and actually I'm going to need your help, guys, because we need to make a decision, is we need to decide whether we want this thing to be ready for a game or we want this thing to be ready for a cinematic approach. And I'm gonna let that to you. You guys are gonna vote, and depending on your vote, that's what we're gonna be doing. Okay, so yeah, make sure you leave your comment and tell me what thing you would like to see. Would you like to see this be a cinematic piece or a video game piece? Because again, depending on what we get on the results from the comments tomorrow, I will start teaching you techniques to model things specifically for certain things, for let's say films or commercial, in which case we would stay here inside of Maya, or for video games, in which case we will probably transport, is that the proper word? Yeah, like move this thing into Unreal. Now you can see that up here, the little like cone thing, it's actually like 6 sides as well. So I'm just gonna make this 6 sides. But we have a big problem. The problem is that since we already like modified things, it doesn't remember how it was before it got created. So we're actually gonna have to create a new one. Snap this thing right there. Make sure that we select 6 sides before we do any sort of like movements on the vertex or anything. And now we should be able to properly match it. So that's the base. That's the point. And now you can see that we have this sort of like faceted look as well. So in this case, I'm going to go front view. I'm going to use my cut tool. I'm going to cut once and twice here. And then with my little things here, I'm just going to push in and in to create that sort of like pointy hat effect on the top of the tower. Cool. Now we had the barrels. We were doing the barrels yesterday. So this was supposed to be the big barrel. Just like a very big barrel here. It's bigger than a human. And then this one's going to be the small barrel. And since we're already doing barrels, why not teach you how to model a very nice barrel? So if we take a look at the barrel, barrel planks. We need to see how many planks we usually have in a barrel. I'm pretty sure there's like different ways to do a barrel, but what happens, or if you've seen how a barrel is made, it's usually a lot of planks like pushed together with a metal thing. They wet the what's the word? The wood until it becomes like flexible, and then they dry it out, I think, and they use like a lot of resins and stuff to harden it. So I would say probably like 16 planks might not be a bad idea. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create or actually I'm going to show you, because this is something that we do quite often. I'm going to open a new scene. Let's save this. And we're going to work on a barrel on a new scene. And the reason why this is important is sometimes you don't want to have your main scene be like super contaminated with all of the different things that you're doing. So let's do 16. There we go. And what I want to do first is I want to create like the planks. So to do this in the most realistic way possible, I'm actually going to grab all of the faces on the top and on the bottom. Whoop, like this. And then I am going to say edit mesh as separate or extract. Both of them work. And that's going to keep only this guy right here. And then this guy's right here. I'm going to grab all of the edge loops. And I'm going to say edit mesh, separate. What that will do is now each face is going to be an individual face. But before that, I do want to give it the curvature. So I'm going to go mesh tools, insert edge loop. And we're going to insert 5 edge loops. So we get 6 divisions. There we go. We're going to grab the first one. This is actually, every time I teach 3D, every one of my students has to do a barrel. That's like the rite of passage for my classes. I actually have a barrel here in the studio that we use to reference. And so yeah, every single person that has taken a class with me at some point or another has done a barrel. So there we go. But the one that we normally do is not as complex as this one that we're going to be doing today. So here's what we're going to do now. I am going to grab all of the edges here. Very quickly select this guns, or faster way. Since there's less edge loops this way, I'm just gonna deselect this ones, and that way we just get like all of the guys going vertical. And I'm gonna say edit mesh, and I'm gonna say detach, and that will detach each individual face. So now each plank is like a different plank, right? So now this guy right here, I am gonna extrude, and I'm gonna extrude out, but with thickness. I want to do a little bit of thickness, and we definitely need to do a little bit of offset here, so that the planks kind of like merge together as well. because otherwise when we like merge everything, things are not gonna look exactly like what we want. You can see there's a little bit of an error there. That's fine. That one is super easy to fix. It's just a matter of grabbing those two edge loops and just pushing them together there. Same one for this guy right here. There we go. Now I know that all of these guys are the exact same thing, right? Like they're very, very similar. So what I can do here is I can actually select one island right here and then delete the rest of the islands. There we go. And we only have this one. Why am I doing this? Well, I want to save a little bit of time, and this is a technique that we're going to be doing quite a bit, no matter if we're doing this for games or for film, which is thinking about how to save time, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here, and I'm going to grab, again, pretty much all of the edges except this guy's right here, like the inner ones. So all of the outer edges and the borders, and we're going to bevel. We're gonna add two segments and a small fraction. It's gonna be quite a heavy element, but as you can see now, when we say or do number 3, we're gonna get a super smooth plank, which is closer to what we're going for. And since this thing is still right there at the center, we can use duplicate special. Let's just delete history and freeze transformation, and we can say let's just do that calculation. We're gonna have 360 divided by 16 planks, so that's 22.5 angles. So I'm gonna grab that guy, edit, duplicate the special. And I am gonna have 15 copies because we already have the first one, and it's gonna be 22.5. And if we hit apply, boom, we have this very nice barrel. This is one way to do it. It's not the only way to do it. I do think this is gonna give us the most like realistic approach. I would say it still looks a little bit like faceted, but it shouldn't be that bad. Now this caps, of course, we're gonna like scale them down like this, and I am gonna give them extrusion, and then on this guy right here, this one right there, I'm gonna bevel. So I have a little bit of a lip right there. There we go. So now, of course, I'm actually, for this one, again, in order to save a little bit of polygons, I'm just gonna delete the inner side. So when we do number 3, this remains very flat. And as you can see, we have this thing right here. So there we go, not bad, right? Now what this will allow me to do is now I can grab all of these elements except for the cap, of course. This cap actually we're gonna delete and just duplicate this other one. I'm gonna grab this elements right here, and if I want to, I am actually gonna combine all of them into a single element, and I'm gonna grab the face here, use soft selection, but I'm gonna change the soft selection here in the move options to utilize only not volume but surface. That way, only the faces that are in the same island will be moved. So I can move this thing like up, and then I can move this thing like down, and then I can move this thing like up again. Now let's grab these two guys and move them up again. So what am I doing here? I'm creating variation, right? Like the barrel is not going to be perfectly straight. We're going to have a little bit of an interesting silhouette here and there. And again, here's where you can go as like detailed and as like perfectionist as you want, or keep it as simple as you want, depending on the kind of project you want to do. So I'm going to see Control D here, just rotate this around 180 degrees, and we should have the cap on the other side. Perfect. The ones on the bottom I am going to keep like really straight because I would expect them to be very straight. And if we take a look at the reference, I can see that we only have 1, 2, 3 edge loops right here. It seems to be kind of like buried. This is like an abandoned house or like a lighthouse. So I would expect to see like one more. So I'm gonna go with a create polygon primitives, and we're gonna do a pipe. I kind of miss the Control A from Blender at this point. For those of you that are saying like, yeah, I've been using Blender and I'm just using, yeah, like it doesn't really matter which software you're using. You can do this in 3D Studio Max. You can do this in Houdini, like any software you want. You can utilize or do all of these tricks. Most of the techniques in modeling are very like transferable from one point to another. The only one I would say might be a little bit difficult to do fast would be ZBrush, which we all love ZBrush. I know that, but we need to be honest with ourselves. Like there are certain things that ZBrush, of course you can do a barrel in ZBrush, but I mean, come on, you wouldn't do it, right? It would take you quite a bit of time. So I know that here we're not seeing the like the upper side, but I think it's gonna really help to see the upper side of the elements here. So let's just push this guy, just push it out a little bit, and then I'm already gonna be doing the bevel on this guys. So small bevel, let's say 2 segments, so when we smooth this out, if we're gonna be smoothing, we get a nicer effect. And then we have a second one right about here. It's a little bit thicker. And very important that we try to follow the curvature of the barrel. It's one of the things that I always grade on my students' work when they do the barrel, that they are following the proper like height and stuff. There we go. So now I am gonna Control G, group it, Control D, duplicate the group, and then rotate this 180 degrees, and then just position this thing in a very similar manner, like that. There we go. And we have our own very little barrel. Not little, but our own barrel. So we're gonna grab all of these guys, merge them together so they're in a single element. And if we press number 3 for all of them, this is what we're gonna see. And as you can see, since the planks of the barrel are quite like straight, we get a very nice shading in silhouette. If we wanted like a super smooth barrel, we can also do that. I would probably not model each plank separately in that case. I would probably keep it as a single object, but I just wanted to show you how to model a little bit of a more complex barrel, guys. So now here's the interesting part. I'm gonna stop it here on this guy, not the video, but this asset. I'm gonna stop it right here. I'm just gonna center pivot, delete history, do everything, and I'm gonna combine it into a single object, just to keep it as simple as possible. And I'm just gonna call this object barrel. And the reason why I want to do this is because I will be referencing this object in my scene. And the difference between referencing an object and actually importing it is if I ever do any change to this guy right here, all of the references in my other file are going to be modified. So if I update the UVs, if I do this or that, it's going to be updated. That's one way to do it. So let me save the scene, and we're going to save this. I'm actually going to make a subfolder here for the Lighthouse like sub scenes. So I'm going to call this barrel. And now let's open the Lighthouse scene. There we go. And here what we can do is, again, we can say file, create reference. We go into our Lighthouse and we reference the barrel. And now this object right here is a reference to the barrel. And we can scale it. We can do exactly like anything that you can imagine you can do here, or almost anything. And again, the reason why this is going to be so important is because we're going to be able to modify this, for instance, make this thing a little bit wider. And later on, when we do the actual UVs and stuff, it's going to be super simple to just transfer this. So I'm just going to duplicate this guy right here, make it smaller, because this is going to be here. You can see that this one's not a reference anymore, which is fine. And again, if you don't want to use reference, that's fine. You can't delete references though. So if you want to delete references, just reference editor, go here, right click, file, and nowhere here, and just like this little guy, like delete the reference. There we go. So as you can see, this one did not get deleted. Why? Because it's when you duplicate it, you broke the reference pretty much. So we're gonna position this where it's supposed to be. And here's where I would strongly recommend kit bashing. And by kit bashing, I mean reuse this thing as many times as you need. So I can see there's another small barrel right there. There's two barrels. This is like a bucket. There's one small barrel right there. And that's pretty much it. So we have two more barrels. I'm just gonna grab this guy right here, Control D. This one seems to be a more like human size, small little barrel. So like a garbage can or something. So this guy's gonna be right here in front of the door. And again, this is gonna be super important because by placing this guys, we're gonna be able to get a better idea of the proportions of the elements. So for instance, here, I can see that this thing right here might be a little bit too close to the wall, so let's push this a little bit more, because again, the distance that I see here is not that big, so just careful there. You can also move the pivot point of the barrel down, and then that way when you snap, it's gonna automatically snap to the element that you want. And yeah, so that's like a big white barrel. So I'm gonna make this a big white barrel and leave it right there, because again, these are just barrels that are very small. Now, if you see that like ugly like black thing, that's also from the clip planes. You want to change the near clip plane to something like a 10, and that's also gonna fix that. So that's how close you can get before you actually like do this sort of thing where you go through the object. And there we go. So that's the barrel. Now, I think, how are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing good. I think one thing that's gonna be really helpful here is to start like laying out more of the base meshes that we have here. The barrel was just a quick model that we can do, and we're gonna be doing a lot of those. But you can see here in the concept that we have this like pillars, right? Like this like wooden pillars, and I know that those are just like cylinders. So I'm just gonna grab a cylinder. I am gonna move the cylinder here. Scale it up so that we get roughly the size. Like I'm gonna use this border as a sort of guide. So as you can see, we have 4 of those, like going from here all the way to the wall. So they're probably gonna be about big. It's about that size, I would say. And yeah, we can go again into the shot cams, panels, look through select. It's just gonna be a little bit difficult to find the exact same size. I think we're close though. Tier of copy. I'm gonna be taking a look at this on my other screen because I have more screen real estate. So I apologize if you guys are not seeing this, but I'm just gonna like that's the proper position. That's roughly where it should be, but it's definitely gonna be taller. So it's about that tall. I'm also gonna move the pivot point down and snap it to the floor. There we go. So that's gonna be 1. And then we're gonna have 2, 3, and then the 4th one right here in the wall. And they're gonna be varying in size, but I'm not gonna focus on size right now because at this point this is not important. So we're just gonna duplicate this guy, move this all the way to the side here, and I'm just gonna create Control D. And even though I don't see it, I'm gonna press Shift D, and that's gonna duplicate with the same like distance. And that now we can add a little bit of variation. So maybe not all of them are exactly at the same like sort of distance, and that's fine. And I know we don't see those on the back, but I mean it really doesn't hurt to add them, right? So duplicate this guy again, and I can see 3 on this side. So let's snap this here. So there's like 1 because we have like some sort of stairs here that we're missing. So it's Control D, and then there's 1 there, and that's another 1 over here, and then there's another 1 over here. And then over here, this ones seem to be a little bit smaller, so I'm gonna be scaling them down because they're not matching my perspective the way they should. And then here on the corner, and then we have 1 there, 1 there, and eventually all of these are gonna be replaced by a proper by a proper sculpture or a proper element. But right now, it's just to get the general feel of things, right? Now, I'm also doing, I need to be completely honest with you guys, I'm also doing this in a sort of entertainment kind of way because I would probably not bother placing these guys in the if I were doing this like normally. Here, for instance, here I can see that my platform is missing a little bit of distance. So I'm gonna give it a little bit more distance. So it's not something that I was able to see here. Or until we like match this little guy there. And then this guy is gonna go here, and I would expect to have like a couple more here. So yeah, like I'll probably like wait until the very end until I had the sculptures to start placing them. But of course I need to make this so that it's also entertaining for all of us, right? So I'm just gonna grab all of these guys right here, like all of these little cylinders. And I'm gonna scale them down, because they are a little bit tinier than the ones on top here. And there we go. So we have that, which is a nice approach. Now we have all of the beams, and I'm gonna spend a good amount of time here with the beams. Again, I really need you guys to vote on the comments. If you haven't voted, make sure to leave your vote because every vote will count. Should we do this in a sort of a video game fashion, or should we do this in a more cinematic fashion? Depending on which one we do, well, that's the techniques that we're gonna be showing. Now that doesn't mean that later on we're not gonna be able to do something different, but it's just the one that I'm gonna be focusing the most. So I'm gonna add this cliff into a shelf for now because I'm gonna be focusing on this guys right here, and you can see that I'm matching this guy right here, and I know that if I'm able to match this guy like properly, all of the other ones should fall relatively simple. So I'm just gonna press Control D. And that's about the distance that we have. So Shift D, 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 and we should have like pretty much everything here. Now there's a couple of them that look a little bit weird, so I'm just gonna like do a little bit of movement here and there. There we go. And then I'm gonna grab this guy right here, Control D, and then we have 1 there, and then 2 more, 1, 2, and then we have Control D right here, and then the next one is right here. Pretty much where we have, or close to where we have one of those little things, is where we're gonna have one of these elements. So we're gonna do this and Control D, Control D, Shift D, Shift D. Let's push this one further up. Now we're missing a little bit of a platform here. I haven't modeled it yet, so let's model it real quick. Because now that we have more pieces, it's a lot easier to find where things are supposed to be. So I know that here we're gonna have, let's move the pivot point down here. And I know that we're gonna have this sort of like platform right about there. So it's gonna start right here, right? Because that's where these pillars are. There's like a little bit of a stair. It's a little bit lower. Like there's 4 steps over here, and there's 4 more steps, but this ones are like a little bit longer. So it's right about there, I would say. And this guy right here goes all the way over here, and this one goes a little bit further out, like that. So again, we're getting this like multi-tiling thing right here. So then we have like another support right there, and another support right there. So those are like the main supports for the whole thing that's sitting on the cliff. There's more, of course. I would expect them to be more, and we're gonna be adding them later on. But here is where I really need to manage my cliff, because it looks really, really weird. Like this, those supports are supposed to be like hugging the surface of the cliff, in this sort of like way. So we're gonna have to modify the cliff, of course. Actually, I think I need to go like lower. Right about there. Yeah, that's a little bit closer. And then like this segment right here, this is like pushed in or something, because most of these guys, they're kind of like hugging the surface of the cliff. So I'm gonna try and see if I can make this work. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push these guys in, and then grab these guys and push them out, so that we create this sort of like ramp thing, if you know what I mean. So that the cliff seems to be doing this sort of thing, which is weird because on the concept it's not doing that. It's doing the opposite. But at least we're getting the sort of like effect right here. Now we have all of this scaffolding over here, right? So one quick way to do it is I'm just gonna go over here, and I'm not even gonna bother about like the proper scaffolding. I'm just gonna do like 4 of them guys right now. Grab them, I'm gonna group them or combine them together, and then I'm just gonna start like creating this sort of like tower thing that goes up. It's just noise. Pretty much I'm just creating noise, and then I'm gonna rotate them around 90 degrees like this. And eventually, again, once you guys help me decide which kind of like process or workflow we're gonna be using, I'll be able to decide how to best approach this whole thing, right? So as you can see, it's just like noise that we're adding. So it sort of like gives the idea of the scaffolding. Later on, we're gonna match the scaffolding properly, but again, it's just a matter of creating a visual interest, so that when we see the whole thing, it looks pretty cool, right? So again, we're gonna fix all of that. We definitely need to fix all of that, but we'll do that later. And let's see what else do we have. We have a little bit of a rooftop over here. So this guy's, remember we changed or moved this thing around. I think this guy needs to be a little bit like there, and immediately below this thing there's like a little stair coming into a platform, which is this platform, of course. So I think we need to push this platform a little bit forward, and of course, since we move the whole house, this platform also needs to move like about there. Let's grab all of these things, so that's a little bit closer to where it's supposed to be. There we go. On this side, I can see there's like a little bit of a shelf, again with planks like coming from here. So I'm just gonna push this out, move it down like this. This seems to be pushing a little bit more, because here's where we will have the stairs. We have a lot of stairs, so I definitely think we should do a stairs. And one of the easiest ways to represent the stair is, oh, what did I do? Oh, there we go. I'm just gonna grab like a cube, and stairs are usually 30 centimeters high. So I think this ones will be a little bit higher, so probably gonna be like, well, it's not 30 centimeters. I think 30 centimeters is fine. Let's go 25. So on the scale of Y, I'm going to say 25. That's usually how big of a stair would be. They're usually a meter wide, so I'm going to say 100. And the depth should be like 30 centimeters. So that's usually how like big a stair is. So I'm going to move the pivot point of this stair to the front and to the bottom, so that's like on a corner. Say Control D. Control D. And we're gonna snap back here and up here. Control D, snap back here and up here. Control D, snap up here and up here. And then we're gonna have our 4 steps, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's roughly the amount of steps that I'm seeing in most stairs. So for instance, this stair right here would be my main stair over here. And I'm probably gonna make it a little bit wider in this case. And of course, the final step, like you should have, like this thing should be sitting like there on the ground, because the final step is gonna be the last one, right? Like something like this. So that seems good to me. And then the next stair is this one right here, which seems to be a little bit wider on the concept. So it's probably gonna be about there. Yeah, like that. I think it looks good. I mean, it's again just a block-in, but it looks good. And then we have another stair on this area right here, which is just, as you can see here, it's just like 1 step. So I'm just gonna position this 1 step where it's supposed to be, which is about there. And then I'm just gonna delete all the faces that we don't need. Grab this guy again. Now this other one also has 4 steps right here, but they're wider. So we're gonna have like taller steps. They seem to be going like longer, and they seem to be a little bit like flatter, so the distance between them is not as big. So that means that we're gonna have something like this. So see how by creating 1 little stair, we can have like as many as we want. Now this guy right here, this seems to be a little bit narrower. It's supposed to be 5 steps on this one. So that means that we're gonna have to like make this like thinner. And we're probably gonna have to like add a 5th step. So I'm gonna push this guys in like this. Let's make them thinner like this. And remember, we just created this one over here. So why not just reutilize that one? It's a single, where is it? Let's center the pivot point and let's snap it right there. There we go. And that's it. It's gonna give us our like 5th step. Again, we're gonna fix a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff is gonna be fixed, but at least we're getting our nice block in here. And I can definitely see that it's not matching my concept. Like the stair on the concept, if I wanted to really match it, should be like here. But as you can see, this really breaks the, does it? Yeah, it really breaks the proportions. So here's where I'm gonna have to deviate a little bit from the concept and try to find like the best possible like solution. So you can see that they're closer to the border here, so I'm gonna leave them right about there. Because again, sometimes it's just gonna be very, very difficult to match everything perfectly. And the most important part is that it looks as close as possible, because even the most like proficient artists, like you see the concepts of the characters that they use for movies and stuff, they never match like 100%. So these ones are definitely narrower, and as you can see, they're on the edge of this little house thingy, so about there, I would say. And that's what we would get. And yeah, that's it. I mean, as you can see, this is looking pretty nice. We do have this guys right here. How are we doing on time? I think we're gonna stop here, guys. I think this is a good point to stop, because even though I could start like adding more beams and more stuff, it's gonna be easier if we decide what kind of things we're gonna be doing. If we're gonna be going for games, or if we're gonna be going for film. So make sure to leave a comment. Make sure to let me know which one you think is gonna look best for our particular scenario. And depending on which one gets picked, we're gonna be moving forward with that one. And yeah, that's it for today, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this continuous project. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you back tomorrow. Bye-bye.